Your nutrition is your timber man. What are you doing with your timber? Are you harvesting your timber? Are you letting it just stay mature timber? You know, deer or browse, their main food is browsing. And if you got a mature closed canopy forest, you know, you may have all the acres in the world, but during the spring and summer, there's no browse. When you do a lot of timber cutting, you get a lot of quality foods and French mulberry. This is in the piney woods. Deer just love these berries. I did a little small study with a deer and a pin, and I would pick 5 pounds of these berries and put it in a box, and I'd pick something else and put it in a box, and I'd pick something else and put them in the box. Every time I did French mulberry, it was always empty. Managing your timber, thinning, clear cutting, burning, prescribed burning, those are things, because most of what your deer, the nutrition from your deer herd is going to come from your forest. Most people don't have the capability, clubs, some landowners do if they wanted to plant and do enough planting. And my advice, you know, you see what percent of the landscape should you have in forage plantings. My suggestion is if you're really going to have an impact, it's got to be 10% or more. You've got to do it like a farmer and basically farm. It's a little quarter-acre food plot here and there is not going to do it. One way to improve your nutrition is improve your hardwood component. I took one of the grandsons 3 years ago and we picked 2 5-gallon buckets of cow oak acorns. I plowed me a row right here and planted all those acorns. That's probably close to 200 yards long. They all came up. The next year I went in and dug up some of the seedlings, maybe another row, put me some in over here, put more cow oaks scattered around. So this is what I'm investing in for the future for the grandsons, and my son is this cow oak. You know, you got 100 cow oaks dropping acorns from a deer hunting standpoint. Well, you don't need corn because you've got all these acorns hopefully on the ground. If you're managing your hardwood component on your property, you need to have both white oaks and red oaks. That way you won't have a mass crop failure. You maintain that diversity of both white oaks and red oaks. A couple of years ago, I was over in the Morganza floodway and saw an overcup, and I pulled him up, a little seedling, and I've got one overcup in the creek drainage that I'm trying to baby and maybe get some overcup. Although overcup is not the most desirable acorn, deer will eat it. I've also invested in the Dunstan chestnuts. I don't know if you plant those, but my trees now for the past 3 years have been producing big chestnuts. I'm also a friend gave me some little chinkapins, and I'm going to plot those, grow seedlings, and hopefully maybe get some chinkapins going. Persimmons, basically our native persimmon, you have to have both male and female trees. You identify which trees are females because they're the ones producing the fruit. Pears are another good fruit tree. Mayhaws, I have a lot of mayhaws on the property, but I'm not impressed with deer eating mayhaws. I think that was overrated years ago. My key in my food plots, and in any food plot, is your protein is the key, and basically your legumes, and mainly clover. And this broadleaf plant that you see growing mixed in is chicory. Last year I established some white clover, a couple of species of white clover, the ladino clover and chicory, and they did quite well. Perennial red clover I've been fooling with for several years, and this picture is August. And look at it, the perennial red clover is still flowering. Of course, it's been an exceptionally wet year for us, and so the clover is just, in fact, I was bush hogging this week, and I still had red clover flowers still. So if that's something you might want to look into, the perennial red clover, Trifolium praetens, arrowleaf clover is a good one. Of course, I have a lot of crimson clover, and I get a lot of regeneration from crimson clover. That's a good one to have. This year, I couldn't find the perennial red clover that I wanted, so I went with the Pennington. This has perennial red clover in it with a couple others. This mix also has some, it had 4 species of clover in it. It had racine clover, which I haven't tried before, but it's supposed to be pretty good. So I'm trying to get that going. But clover in the spring is where I put the emphasis, and then for the summer crop, rather than, I planted cow peas before, but they generally, my plots are so small, they just get eaten up within a week. And, that does no good. So I've gone to American joint vetch, and that really does well if you can get it established and going. What I'll do this spring, and I plant most of mine wheat and oats, cereal rye. We like the songbirds, and I get a lot of rose-breasted grosbeaks and your blue grosbeaks and indigo buntings. We like those, so I always let everything seed out, and I don't fool with it during the spring and summer until it looks like the birds have eaten all the seed and all that stuff. We like to watch the birds, but I will take one of these strips this year and row it up and put corn in it. And this is all I do to the chicory and clover patches is just bush hog it real low to the ground and fertilize it with 8-24-24. You don't want to, with chicory, you don't want to disturb the root crop. It's a perennial that comes back. Same thing with your clover. You don't want to disturb it. You're going to get weeds in it, and a lot of people will spray the grasses. I don't mind. Like I said, a lot of my weeds the deer are eating, so that's fine. Have at it. Feeding program, most hunters, landowners feed strictly to have the deer come to where you want to shoot it. Just from a hunting standpoint. I do know people who have fed corn year round. I haven't had, last year I had no problems at all with pigs knocking down feeders. I set them up a couple of weeks ago, and one of the boys came and said, "Chief, the feeder's on the ground." And bit them darn pigs and knocked all the 2 of them down that I had. So I went in and took T-posts and drove them in the ground and locked them in. So, okay, now I have at it. If you have bears on your property, that's not going to help bears. They're going to tear your feeder up. And a lot of people in the Chapel Basin and the upper Mississippi River system that have bears, basically you kind of get away from a feeding program because bears are just going to kill you. You can't outsmart them. They're just so big, they just tear up anything. Corn, feeding corn year round. Basically, corn is 6% protein. It doesn't give you what you want during the spring and summer. But a lot of people that feed protein pellets, what you can do is mix corn with the protein pellets to get the deer to eating it. And you can cut back on the amount of corn you use and go more with the protein pellets. But you don't want to be just wasting. Another way you could do it is to fence in, put in a perimeter fence, small fence that deer can jump over to keep them from messing up the feeders.